The Puck Portfolio with Andy MacNeil.
Hey, welcome to the Puck Portfolio. I'm Andy MacNeil, your host. I'm here weekdays on the Canada Sports Betting YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcast to provide NHL projections, picks, and betting advice to help you make informed bets throughout the season. This show is sponsored by NorthStar Bets across Canada. They are available to all Canadians, so check them out via the link below in the description. Jake, my man, what's up?
Oh, not too much, not too much. Having a lazy week, just trying to get back in the groove. Writing my football takes today after the show, so kind of in football mode right now. But excited to get into some hockey too.
For sure, for sure. Well, it's been a great run for the show for me. 60 and 39 heading into Tuesday night. Unfortunately, the train came to a screeching halt, went 0 and 3 on my three underdog bets, with the Panthers getting absolutely jobbed. I'm just kidding. It was the right call. But I mean, how many of those do they miss throughout the course of the season? They certainly didn't miss that one in the Toronto Situation Room. But the Maple Leafs, they pick up the shootout win. We'll talk about the Panthers in a little bit. Of course, I'm still rocking my Panthers hat. I think we should have got the Ontario sweep. They played really well on the second half of a back-to-back versus the Toronto Maple Leafs, who are now pretty short on D with Mark Giordano on the injured list as well. So we'll get into a schedule breakdown here really quick for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Of course, we've got the Montreal Canadiens coming in. I don't know what the Blue Jackets did to NHL schedule makers, but they've really been getting screwed here. The Canadiens coming in 3 days rest against the Blue Jackets on 1 day's rest, playing their third game in 4 nights, fourth game in 6 nights. The Red Wings, they've got 2 days rest against the Rangers, who have had 1 day off. The Capitals, 1 day off versus the LA Kings, who have had 3 days off. And then you've got nothing really interesting on Thursday in terms of the rest days. Of course, we've got the Red Wings and the Canadiens playing back to back, but the teams that they're facing off against don't have huge rest advantages. So there is that, and really everything else, it's kind of a one day advantage here and there, but mostly everybody's evenly matched in terms of rest. But then you get into Friday, and you start to see some more back to backs. Of course, the Devils and the San Jose Sharks both playing back to back on Friday. But let's get into the projections for Wednesday, November 29th. Today, Montreal at Columbus. We know Elvis Merzlikins is going to start for the Blue Jackets. And if you watched Tuesday's show and thought my model was too low on Columbus at minus 122 at most sports books, listed them at minus 135. Well, the market makers now have them at minus 125. So not too high on the Blue Jackets. Detroit at the Rangers. Big change here. It looks like Patrick Kane will make his Red Wings debut, but Dylan Larkin will reportedly miss the next 2 games. Detroit travels to Chicago to take on the Blackhawks on Thursday in the second half of a back-to-back. Obviously, Igor Shesterkin going to start for the Rangers in this one versus the Red Wings. Looks like Adam Fox is expected to make his return to the lineup tonight. The model says the Rangers should be minus 187 favorites. With all this going on, with Larkin now out for the Red Wings, the Capitals in LA taking on the Kings. The model has the Kings at minus 219. NorthStar Bets currently minus 204. So not quite there yet. There is definitely some value on the LA Kings. I would wait to see who plays in goal at this point. Find out that a little bit later, I'm sure. But before we get into Thursday, November 30th, I want to remind everybody to subscribe to the Canada Sports Betting YouTube channel if you have not already. Please get on Twitter, share the show if you don't mind. That helps out a ton. Of course, like the video, tell your friends about it, your hockey friends and your sports betting friends, of course. But yeah, let's get into Thursday, November 30th. Big slate, but I'm not gonna get your hopes up. I've got one bet that I love, that I absolutely love heading into Thursday. Other than that, a pretty lame slate, if you ask me, at least in terms of the money lines. And that's all we're seeing right now on the board. Of course, puck lines, totals, things like that starting to pop up. But the money lines, listed at a lot of places already, even though we are quite a ways out from Thursday's games. But I'll get into that right away. It's the Florida Panthers. Look, the Panthers, they're the real deal. This team works really hard. They're solid defensively, always leading with their sticks. Then they get into the offensive zone, and they're as skilled as any team with the puck in the offensive zone. Florida's cycle, it can be absolutely relentless, especially when Barkov, Kachuk, and the rest of the big guns are out there. I mean, they dominated the Maple Leafs in periods of Tuesday's games. 84-58 advantage in shot attempts for the Panthers versus the Maple Leafs on Tuesday. Montreal, on the other hand, they rank second worst in shot attempts percentage at 5-on-5 in the month of November, fourth worst in shot attempts against per 60 minutes in the month of November. Montreal hasn't played a home game since November 16th when Vegas closed minus 196 on the money line. And since then, things have only gotten worse. The model thinks that the Panthers should be minus 252 on the money line. I'm probably going to play this one in a few different ways. So I'm not going to make a huge bet here on the money line, just minus 1.92 units to win 1 unit, locking that in right now here on the Florida Panthers against the Montreal Canadiens. I know it's an obvious play here, but NorthStar Bets has a great price, minus 192. I don't think this one's going to be around later on today. I don't think it's going to be around tomorrow. Every other game on the board I look at, and there is no opportunity, in my opinion, that screams this is a great bet. And I'm going to explain why throughout this show. Of course, there's always tomorrow. Maybe we find something we like. Maybe the market moves in that direction overnight. We'll see what happens. But yeah, locking in the Florida Panthers on the money line to win 1 unit at minus 192 at NorthStar Bets. Get that right out of the way. Give you guys the lowdown on what pick I like the most for Thursday's NHL action. I hope you stick around, though, because we've got lots to talk about here. The Edmonton Oilers, they're taking on the Winnipeg Jets. And look, I was not inspired by the Oilers in their first 4 games under new head coach Chris Knobloch. But not only have they strung together 3 straight wins, but they've also put together 3 straight performances too. Now against some pretty light teams, the Capitals, the Ducks, and Vegas not playing all that well for that matter. But Tuesday's game against Vegas had no business going to overtime, but it did. And the Oilers are going to have to deal with those kinds of outcomes as long as they have shoddy goaltending and as long as their offensive depth is a problem. Well, at least until one of those two things changes, or until they upgrade at the position, the goaltending position, or Stuart Skinner finds his game, which seems kind of unlikely at this point. But we'll see. Teams, goaltenders, players seem to get good overnight sometimes. I think Edmonton, they might have a real chance at turning their season around if they can beat the odds over the next couple of weeks. And by that, I mean win more games than you'd expect against teams like the Jets. Of course, they've got the Jets on Thursday, the Hurricanes, the Devils, the Lightnings, the Panthers, the Rangers, the Kings. Over the next 4 weeks, they're going to play all of those teams, and their upcoming schedule, November 30th to December 31st. I think it's the most important part of their schedule. Obviously, you've got that game against the Jets on Thursday in Winnipeg. And then they're home for 6 straight games. They'll have 5 days off after that game against the Jets. But then they're playing the Carolina Hurricanes, the Minnesota Wild, the New Jersey Devils, the Chicago Blackhawks, and the Tampa Bay Lightning, and the Florida Panthers at home between December 6th and December 16th. And then they're going on the road for 6 games, to finish off the month of December. They're going to play the Islanders, the Devils, the Rangers, the Sharks, the Kings, and the Ducks. So if you look at that run of games there that the Oilers have to play now between now and the end of December, the Jets, the Hurricanes, the Devils, the Lightning, the Panthers, the Devils again, the Rangers, the Kings. Those are tough. Those are some tough matchups, right? And I mean, you could argue that a lot of those teams are better than the Oilers right now, and if not better, probably evenly matched with the Oilers. And then you look at a team like the Wild, who has beaten the Oilers already this season. The Chicago Blackhawks and the San Jose Sharks look like easier wins, as do the Anaheim Ducks. But the Oilers have had trouble against teams like the Sharks, for example, that they've lost to already this season. So I definitely think it's going to be very important, that they rack up some wins here, win some games that they quote unquote shouldn't win, I guess. Right. And that's gonna kind of make or break their season. So I'm not gonna pander to anybody, Oilers fans, on this show and say the Oilers are back and post John Wick memes. I know, like, it's easy to think that, it's easy to get excited, and if you're excited about the Oilers, great. You've got every reason to be excited about the Oilers. nothing is everything's not going wrong anymore. Things are starting to turn. Their underlying metrics still really strong. They've dug themselves a pretty good hole, and teams like the Canucks are a lot better than we thought they were. And I just think from in the betting sense, I don't know if the Oilers are back, right? Like, I've got the Oilers priced at plus 109 according to the models. So that means the Jets are a minus 109 favorite. If you look at the odds at most sports books, that's what you're seeing, a pick 'em. So, unless you think that the Oilers are way better than the Jets, or, a superior team to the Winnipeg Jets, which I don't think they are right now. I think these two teams are on a pretty even playing field. Then there's no bet to make here in terms of the side. Like, I mean, I guess I'd want to hear somebody's reasoning, right? I'd want to see the math, because my math tells me that this is a 50-50 game. The Jets have home ice advantage, so they're a small favorite. And that's that, right? So no play on the Edmonton Oilers, and no play on the other team from Alberta either, and no play on their opponent. But I'm going to talk a little bit about why, because a month ago I was laying minus 125, minus 130 on the Dallas Stars to beat the Calgary Flames. But the gap is closed since then. The Calgary, they had a 37% goal share in October. They ranked 24th in expected goals percentage. But in the month of November, Dallas and Calgary ranked 8th and ninth in all situations in terms of goal share, respectively. So you've also got the Flames improving to 17th in expected goals percentage at 5-on-5. So from 24th to 17th, basically an average team now. And last week I talked about how the Flames hadn't beaten anybody of note this season. Well, they beat the Stars 7-4 last week. They beat Vegas 2-1 in overtime on Monday. They did lose to the Avalanche in Colorado, but that was the second half of a back-to-back, and Dan Vladar was in goal for the Flames in that game. So, can you really fault this team here? I don't think there's an edge on the Dallas Stars, who are now minus 125 on the money line. I just wanted to touch on that one. Minus 123 actually at NorthStar Bets. It is the best price in market right now. So if you do like the Dallas Stars, NorthStar Bets is the place to bet at that. But I just don't think there's an edge here. The model, it says Dallas should be a minus 116 favorite. So, like I said, the gap is closed. A month ago, it probably thought Dallas should be a minus 140 favorite, or a minus 140, actually, somewhere around a minus 145 favorite. But the gap is closed a lot, and the Flames don't look like total losers now. So, that's that. And another team that doesn't look like total losers, it's the San Jose Sharks. Talked a bit on Wednesday's show about how if you had bet $100 on the Sharks to win every single game since they got blown out 10-2 by the Penguins earlier this month, you'd be up $518 right now versus closing odds. If you had been betting $100 flat on their opponents to win all of those games, you'd be down $268. So you better have a good reason to bet against the San Jose Sharks. And somebody asked me on Twitter on Wednesday, are the Bruins the real deal? They said that they bought in on the Bruins last season, and they got burned by it, didn't we all? But I don't think the Bruins are the real deal. If we're talking about them as like a President's Trophy, team, or a Stanley Cup favorite, no, I don't think the Bruins are the real deal. The numbers will tell you that. My model will even tell you that they're a Stanley Cup favorite. But I've said time and time again, I think it's really just a little bit silly to try to model a team Stanley Cup chances this far out. What do you think about that, Jake? Do you think just intuitively it's kind of silly to try to put a number on a team's cup chances? I think it helps to maybe point you in the right direction sometimes, like we talked about the Winnipeg Jets maybe being a good long shot bet now, simply because their schedule is going to get really easy. And that might cause their odds to shorten a bit if they finish really strong here in the regular season. But yeah, I mean, putting a number on a team's Stanley Cup chances this far out seems a little silly.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. Like everybody says that we kind of know who's going to be in the playoffs by American Thanksgiving, but, deciding who's going to make it work in the playoffs. And to go back to the Bruins, I just look at their center depth and I wonder, like, they're all playing over their heads right now, kind of they're
Yeah.
seizing the moment, but I don't know. When it comes to crunch time, when it comes later in the season, I have serious questions about their center.
Yeah, I had questions early in the season. Look, Boston had the easiest schedule of any team in the month of October, and they made good on it. So props to them. But I was always skeptical. I talked about it a lot, how I wasn't going to be betting on the Bruins that month. Wasn't necessarily looking to fade them either, thank God, because they cleaned up. They beat everybody that month, but they've gone 6-6 straight up in the month of November with losses in 3 of their last 4 games. They look to be above water statistically, but if you zoom in on their game logs, especially recently, and you look at how they've been playing at 5-on-5, they do not look like a powerhouse. They don't even look very good right now. So something to definitely look at there. The model has Boston as a minus 379 favorite. I think there's something whack about that. I don't really know what it is. I suspect that things are it's just taking a little bit while here, a little bit to catch up to things here, because the Bruins were playing really really well for a while, but as of late, not playing all that great. The Sharks still, I know they're winning games and whatnot, but it's not like their underlying metrics have improved all that much. They're still getting, blown out in a lot of games. They're still looking pretty poor in a lot of areas. So, not something I'm interested in there for sure. But just wanted to touch on that one because I do think it is an interesting matchup. Boston, I mean, if I was just gonna look at the model here, I would probably bet them on the puck line because you can get minus 115, minus 118, stuff like that out there right now on the Boston Bruins to cover minus 1.5 goals. So if my model's price is correct, then the puck line price would be somewhere in the minus 145 neighborhood, minus 140 neighborhood. So big edge there. If you're taking the model at face value, I pick and choose my spots to take the model at face value, and you can call me names, call me what you want, but it's worked out. You know, it's worked out all right for me so far, I'd say. Right? I mean, I know I went 0-3 on Tuesday, but hey, had to lose at some point, right? And it could have been all right. If we had got that play on the Panthers, if they had got out of the building before they reviewed that shootout goal, I would have lost a half unit last night. But instead, I go 0-3 because the Blues did not show up enough in their game versus the Wild. Carter Hart lets a flubber in a terrible goal late in the third period in a 2-1 game, which nullified any chance that the Flyers were going to come back against the Hurricanes. But yeah, speaking of the Flyers, they're in action against the Devils, and I mean, I said that they pulled me back in. I thought I was out on the Flyers. I talk. People ask me, which teams are you seeing value on? It's a new team every week. There's new teams every week. Sometimes it's the Flyers, the Red Wings. Sometimes it's another ugly team, but the Devils. I don't think the Devils are frauds like some people think they are. They've been struggling here, to in terms of their goal share, but their expected goals percentage remains really high. They remain one of the best teams in the NHL in that regard. And this team's they're going to be just fine, right? Goaltending has really sewered this team this year with Vitek Vanacek. And I know the defense doesn't look great at times, but they were a really good defensive team last season. I imagine they'll figure it out. They just got to get back, to playing the right way, like we've heard them say a lot lately. But no edge on the Philadelphia Flyers. The model has the Devils as a minus 135 favorite. And what we're seeing out there in the market right now, the Flyers plus 140 actually. So damn, no, the NorthStar Bets plus 128. There's a plus 135 out there, which still isn't anywhere good enough. Plus 140 at one sports book, but yeah, no edge on the Flyers here for this one. And yeah, I am very very interested in this next game because I'm wondering what the hell's going to happen here with the Toronto Maple Leafs and their defense. It does not look to be in good shape. I mentioned early off the top of the show that Mark Giordano has now been added to the injured list. So the Maple Leafs are now really, really short on defensemen, and they've got the Kraken coming in. Minus 166 is what the model says. We're seeing minus 185 out there on the money line for the Maple Leafs right now. In their game against the Seattle Kraken. That's a big difference from where they would have been last season. I'm sure if you go back to the last time they played the Kraken at home in Toronto, they would have been north of, a minus 200, minus 210 favorite, something like that. Now, minus 166, according to the model, minus 185, according to NorthStar Bets. So yeah, Maple Leafs, I mean, they've looked all right as of late. They've started to turn things around. I still think they're a lot closer to being a mediocre team, on the season than an elite team. But they've got the pieces there to turn it around. But with their injuries on the blue line, it's going to be tough. So yeah, it's just it's a really tough day. I mean, look, we'll be back here tomorrow looking at Thursday's odds again, seeing if seeing if any value has appeared. And you guys can tell me, look, Andy, look, you missed this one, you missed that one. And if that's the case, I'll own it. I'll say, look, I guess the model, is not wasn't on its game today. But another way to look at it is we've been absolutely crushing for the better part of 2 months here on this show, winning like crazy. I mean, betting average odds, plus 105 average odds, and hitting, almost 60% of your bets. That's insane. Somebody said to me yesterday, and I understand they were just trying to provide some words of encouragement after an 0-3 night, that, don't worry, stick to the process. Things are going to get better. Things are getting better. They're only going to get worse. Hopefully, they'll stay as good. I don't mean to say they'll only get worse, but you're not going to hit 60% of your bets betting coin flips all year long. It's just really unlikely that that's going to continue to be the case, right? So really, good strong run, great handicapping. I'm going to pat myself on the back for that. I don't mind that, but luck as well. Had a lot of luck on my side um, here these last several weeks, especially. So, and you need that. You're not going to win in this game without some luck on your side. The once the puck drops, everything you've done, everything is out of your control. All you can control is the price that you pay. So that's why I'm always preaching price sensitivity on this show. Just the one play for Thursday. It's the Florida Panthers, locked it in at minus 192 on the money line. If I'm being honest, I'm probably going to add some on the puck line, maybe the regulation line, maybe an alt line. I know the Panthers haven't been, murdering teams this year in terms of goal differential, but um, the Canadians have looked awful as of late, haven't they, Jake?
Yeah, rub it in. Yeah, they're an inconsistent team, and I'm not expecting much from them. From here to the end of the season. So, Florida's a different team from LA, but we saw when they played LA, a team just kind of loaded with talent that they had no answers, and kind of expect the same outcome here.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks for joining me. If you have not already, please like and subscribe to the Canada Sports Betting YouTube channel. Check us out on Spotify and Apple. If you're listening to the podcast on Spotify and or Apple, please rate and review the podcast, 5 stars, or get out of here. But yeah, it really helps a lot. I want to climb those charts in the hockey betting sphere, so that'll help out. Hopefully, we'll get our win on the Panthers tomorrow, but we'll be back before then with a big show on Thursday. Talk about some futures, probably, if nothing else pops up here on the money lines. Maybe some player props. Someone else asked me yesterday, "Hey Andy, you do a great job with the money lines. Why don't you do player props?" Look, I've got all the time to invest into this model and to fine tune things, etc. There are 32 teams. There are 1,312 games that I handicap in the run of the regular season. Uh, Talking about player props, I mean, there are, a handful of markets for each player, if not more. There are, 20 players, 20 plus players on each team to handicap. Even if you stick to the top guns, you're still looking at a handful of players on each team, right? So it's a lot of work. And I can price just about anything. Using the math that I've learned, that I've taught myself, that I use for other pricing other markets. But it's being able to price something, even as good as the sports book, doesn't necessarily mean that it would beat the market or have a positive ROI. I can definitely provide some insight sometime into my approach to betting player props, but really my approach more often than not is finding some players that maybe the market as a whole hasn't caught up to, and then looking for the best prices. And that's pretty much what it boils down to. I was betting a lot of Quentin Byfield props earlier this season. I only talked about it on the show once. But I was betting a lot of Quentin Byfield props earlier this season. Feel like things have kind of caught up there. But there are people that do player props. Hopefully, I can find a way to do it with some level of confidence that I can provide you guys as much value as already provided you each day on this show. I don't want to decrease the value provided on this show every day. So that's why I stick to the money lines. As of right now, it's a lot of work as is. But yeah, maybe tomorrow we'll dive into some player props, look for some opportunities where maybe something's sticking out, maybe a player that's flying under the radar is getting elevated to a higher position in the lineup, a second or a first line spot that they didn't have before. Those are always good opportunities to look around at the player prop markets when something like that pops up. But yeah, just the Florida Panthers for me right now. Might end up with a play on the LA Kings. They're also a big favorite on Wednesday night. I'm talking about against the Capitals, but I'm going to see where the line goes because the odds have moved toward the Capitals at some of the bigger sports books. Still seeing minus 204, minus 205, something like that at a lot of shops. So not going to lock anything in. But hey, if we get down south of minus 200 into that minus 195, minus 190 range, I certainly think there's enough value at that point to lock in a bet on the LA Kings. I'm going to wait until that is the case. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you on Thursday.